that the officers that responded from all of these various police departments, and the reason that these folks are here today is because they had some involvement, some response level. Could be dispatch, could be interviews at the end of the day, could be mutual aid, which is a big piece of the backbone of law enforcement in Maine, and that's why they're here. They deserve that acknowledgement, that thank you, initially right out of the box, and we certainly want to thank them, and I know we're going to hear that again throughout. So with that in mind, I will step aside. There will be questions and answers here towards the end, so please hold those questions until I come back up to the podium, and we will start with Colonel Ross. So,
thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Bill Ross with the State Police. The commissioners kind of set the agenda for the next couple of minutes here. What I'd like to do is just kind of bring you through this collaborative effort that the law enforcement community in Maine, Maine State Police, the agencies you see behind me that came together yesterday, and probably one of the most dynamic, certainly criminal investigations, crimes in progress that we've seen in Maine, if not in recent times ever. But what I want to talk about is a timeline, and I'm going to take you through some of those particulars. Again, as the Commissioner had mentioned, I'm not going to be able to take you through all of those details, but I think there's plenty of details for you all to hear today, to paint a picture of what happened yesterday and fill in some of the blanks. Around 9:21 yesterday, the Saginaw Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from an individual regarding what they had found at 1459 Augusta Road in Bowdoin. A friend of the people that live at that residence had gone into the residence and discovered what they believed to be a deceased adult. That individual waited for sheriff's deputies to arrive. Sheriff's deputies promptly arrived on scene, secured the scene, and located a total of three deceased adults in the residence, and a fourth adult deceased outside in a barn that was on the premises. The deceased have been identified by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner today after conducting autopsies. Those people have been identified. I'll start with the three that are inside the residence. 72-year-old Robert Eager and 62-year-old Patricia Eager, who are the homeowners at the 1459 Augusta Road residence. Also inside was 62-year-old Cynthia Eaton. Outside in the barn was located 66-year-old David Eaton. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner determined that all died of gunshot wounds and were determined to be homicides. Around 9:30, the State Police MCU was notified by the Sheriff's Office, and major crimes detectives from the State Police arrive on scene. As the State Police detectives and evidence response team members are arriving on scene, it's about 10:44 or 10:30, rather 10:30 in the morning. Police departments from Yarmouth, Falmouth, and Cumberland are responding to Interstate 295 to assist state troopers that are assigned to Troop I with multiple vehicles and people being shot by gunfire. The area in question is I-295 southbound between mile markers 17 and 15, which is exit 17 and 15 in the town of Yarmouth on the southbound side of the interstate. That's right by the Route 1 overpass at the Cumberland-Yarmouth line. At about 10:44, a vehicle was located on the exit ramp of exit 15 of I-295 southbound ramp. Shortly after that, around 10:15, a search of the area, 34-year-old male by the name of Joseph Eaton was found in a wooded area not far from the vehicle, believed to be his vehicle. Joseph Eaton is the son of Cynthia and David Eaton, two of the deceased found at the 1459 Augusta Road address in Bowdoin. The search of the area continued throughout the morning of the area to determine if there was anyone else involved. It was determined nobody else was involved. The area of southbound I-295 from exit 17 to exit 15 was determined to be a crime scene. So that covered the entire area. The road was shut down, traffic was diverted. We also were able to take Mr. Eaton to Maine Medical Center where he was treated and released without injury. And after some interviews were conducted at the scene, we learned that 3 southbound vehicles were struck by gunfire and 1 northbound vehicle was struck by gunfire. 3 people were transported to Maine Medical Center with gunshot wounds, and 2 of them were non-life threatening, and 1 of them, the individual, still in critical condition. The names of those 3 individuals: 51-year-old Sean Halsey, 29-year-old Justin Halsey, and 25-year-old Paige Halsey. Paige Halsey is still in critical condition at Maine Medical Center. As I said before, the interstate was shut down and remained shut down for several hours as detectives and evidence response team members processed the crime scene. The investigation is ongoing at this time. I can tell you right now that Mr. Eaton was then taken by major crimes detectives and Portland police officers to the Portland Police Department, where he gave a confession and admitted to killing his parents and his parents' friends. He admitted to killing his parents, David and Cynthia, and their friends, Robert and Patricia, in the residence at 1459 Augusta Road in Bowdoin. He had also admitted that he shot at the vehicles on Interstate 295 because he thought he was being followed by police officers. Joseph Eaton has been charged with 4 counts of murder. He was transported to Two Bridges Jail in Wiscasset, and that's where he remains. What we've learned about Mr. Eaton thus far, Joseph Eaton, is that a few days ago he was released from Wyndham Correctional Center, where he was serving about 2 years for aggravated assault. He was picked up, I believe, on April 14th at the Wyndham Correctional Center by his mother, Cynthia, and they drove to the residence in Bowdoin where the murders occurred. At this time, I want to thank the law enforcement partners that were involved in this. As you can imagine, 4 deceased people in a residence is a very difficult thing to see, a very difficult incident to respond to, not only for just what's in front of you, but what other dangers lurked around. So I wanted to thank the Saginaw Sheriff's Department or Sheriff's Office for their response, the Yarmouth Police Department, Falmouth Police Department, Cumberland Police Department for their quick response to what happened on Interstate 295. And I also wanted to thank Maine Department of Transportation, and also Chief Goodman of the Freeport Chief Department for helping out with traffic control that day. And I also want to thank the troopers that belong to a newly formed troop on Troop I. This is very difficult for the community. This is difficult for the communities of not only Bowdoin, but of Yarmouth and the surrounding communities, because this stuff doesn't happen in Maine. But I think with this explanation, as horrible as this situation is, as tragic as this is, it seems to be an isolated incident and not part of a bigger problem, which I think is good news for the residents of Maine. And as I leave here today, I just want to remind you that we still have an ongoing investigation, and if there's anyone that has information regarding this, we'd like you to call the Augusta Regional Communications Center. That's at 207-624-7076. Please choose option number 9, and that will get you to a dispatcher who will then connect you to a detective who's involved in this investigation. And I'll leave with, if we could just keep the Paige Halsey in our thoughts and prayers as she hopefully recovers from her wounds at Maine Medical Center. Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Joel Murray. I'm the Sheriff of Saginaw County, and I want to first start off by expressing my condolences and those of the Saginaw County Sheriff's Office to the Eager family and to the Eaton family and friends for the loss of their loved ones. Yesterday's events were tragic. There's no other way to describe it. It was an unfortunate situation. As the Colonel said, a call came in at approximately 9:20 yesterday morning. Deputies immediately responded to the area. We were able to get there with it in a matter of approximately 10 minutes. Officers cleared the residence and to account for any and all individuals. They did find 3 bodies inside the residence and a 4th one in a non-attached garage. The deputies then did what they've been trained to do, as all law enforcement officers in the state of Maine, is to secure the residence, secure the perimeter, and stand by and wait for a major crimes unit to arrive on scene to further the investigation. I will say that in talking with the witness at the time, the individual who went into the home and then reported the incident to us, we were able to identify a person of interest, and as it turned out, that information was passed on to the Major Crimes Unit, and at approximately the same time, the arrest was occurring in the town of Yarmouth, so it began to come together at that point, and we're thankful for that because that really limited the possible threat to the public, and so it was important for us at that point to begin to share that information. I will say that, in my opinion, the working with the multiple agencies over multiple crime scenes seems seamless from our perspective. We're thankful and appreciative of the efforts of the Maine State Police, major crime units in particular, for what they have done, how they've kept us informed, and how we've been able to work collaboratively with them. And I think that is the essence of law enforcement in the state of Maine. I'm very proud to be a part of that. I guess in closing, I'd just like to say, kind of reiterate something that's already been stated by the Commissioner and the Colonel as well, is that Maine is a small state, and it has often been referred to as a single community. And I think Bowdoin epitomizes that very much. There's one country store in the town of Bowdoin. Everybody does know everybody else's business, but in a friendly way. Bowdoin, in my opinion, is a wonderful community, and I'm heartsick over this tragedy that has occurred and to the people and the residents of this community. And so we hope that we can move on from this, but it's going to take some time to heal. And so I do want to express my sincere condolences to the entire community of Bowdoin for what they've had to experience. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Gallant, I'm Chief of Yarmouth PD. So yesterday around 10:30, we received a call indicating shooting on the Interstate 295 southbound. Multiple vehicles involved, multiple victims. Members of Yarmouth PD responded to the interstate, to the scene, provided vital aid to the victims, along with Yarmouth Fire Rescue and the Maine State Police. Additionally, a unified command was set up between Yarmouth Police Department and the Maine State Police in Yarmouth to make sure that we were setting up a perimeter and trying to apprehend the person responsible. A short time later, somebody was taken into custody, as you heard earlier. Part of the response through Yarmouth was to send out a notice to our community, a geographical area of our community, using a program called Code Red, program where citizens can sign up for this to be notified on their cell phone or home phone for emergency alerts. This in Cumberland County, it's run through the Cumberland County Regional Communications Center. So a small area of looking for, the only person that was outstanding. After we were able to confirm that, and based on the evidence gathered at the scene, we then put that notice out to our community that there was no active threat to our community or the area, and opened up our department to major crimes to use as a command post for them in their ongoing investigation. Again, I would like to reiterate that this is not something that happens in Maine. I can tell you it's not something that happens in Yarmouth, but it can happen anywhere. Yesterday, unfortunately, it was Yarmouth. But I'm very proud of the Yarmouth police officers. I'm proud to be part of the law enforcement community in Maine. The help that we got from the Maine State Police, from Cumberland, Yarmouth, Freeport, Falmouth, and other agencies was amazing. And that's how law enforcement works in the state. It was tough. It was a tough day for a lot of people. It was tough on us. And I wish the 3 people in the vehicle, the Halsey family, hopefully that they recover and are able to get by this, first physically and then emotionally. It's not something that we see every day. It's something that we train for. And I'm proud to say that Maine law enforcement came together yesterday when that was needed and performed seamlessly. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that. So any questions we can answer today? We'll do the best we can.
How many weapons were used in the shooting incident at the home and also?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we're not going to be able to get that specific with you today, but we'll keep that question in mind for future reference.
I do have a follow-up. In the shooting in Yarmouth on the highway on I-295, was Eden in the car at the time, or was he outside of the car when he was shooting at other vehicles?
I'll let Colonel Ross address that if he desires.
Again, I think those are some of the details we're going to keep to the investigation right now. I think as time moves forward and we become more comfortable with that information, we'll release it. But for right now, we're not going to. Again, I'm going to give the same answer. We're still looking through a lot of that. Like I said, it's an active investigation. We had 4 autopsies today, which took up a lot of time. But I think we'll get to all of those questions with answers at some point, but it won't be today.
Can you say whether he was released early from his most recent incarceration?
That information I don't have.
Were the people in the homes in different parts of the residence?
You're referring to the Bowdoin scene?
Yes.
Specifically where they were, we're not going to reveal, other than 3 were inside the residence and a 4th was in a barn or an outbuilding on the premises.
The 911 call, why did that person go to the house in the first place?
It was a friend of the family, friend of the homeowners.
Were they concerned about their well-being?
Yeah, very concerned about their well-being, had made attempts to call the residents, and then eventually went to the residence to check on them and went into the home.
They didn't give you a sense of how long it had been since they last heard from them?
I don't have that information right now.
Was Eden supposed to be under any kind of supervision following his release?
To my understanding, no.
Was gunfire exchanged? We spoke to an eyewitness who said that he thought he saw, shots coming from both sides. Can you confirm that, or was he the only one shooting on the highway on 295?
Yeah, we don't have any information that there was more than one shooter.
Will he
For right now, he's just charged with the crimes in Bowdoin, and the case, or multiple cases in Yarmouth will be pending.
There was a video on his social media feed that was getting a lot of attention where he was kind of talking about asking for forgiveness. He referenced his mother in the posting. Do we know if that video has any connection to like why the friend of the family was concerned, or did it come up at all in his investigation?
We're aware of the video, and again, that's part of our investigation and what all that means. Right now, we're in the how phase, how this happened, and I think the why part of this, why did all of this happen, will come at a later point. But that's where we are. We are aware of it, and I don't think we have any further comment on that.
Do you confirm if that's Joseph Eden in the video?
Excuse me?
Do you confirm if that is Joseph Eden in the video?
I haven't seen the video, so I can't confirm that for you. I think you can see that for yourselves. And again, I think our investigation will reveal at some point whether or not that is the individual in question.
Can you say anything about the style of firearm that was used?
Not at this time.
Sorry if I missed this, but do you know whose vehicle he used to get to Yarmouth?
I don't have that information now.
Where had he been living?
He'd been in jail for 2 years, and up until April 14th of this year, his mother picked him up at the Wyndham Correctional Facility, and his exact whereabouts we're not going to disclose right now, but his parents were involved in his accommodations.
When was the moment when police were able to, connect the dots and figure out that these two situations were related? There was a thanks to the person who did call 911 in Bowdoin, and then there was just so much going on, and the two don't seem related, so how were police able to connect the dots so quickly?
I believe Sheriff Mary had mentioned earlier that the name had come up and was passed on to responding officers to the other event. So it didn't take long before all of that was connected. Again, the particulars of that I'm not going to share right now.
Was he even a resident of Maine at the time he was incarcerated 2 years ago?
I don't have that information.
Why was he taken to Maine Medical Center?
There was a medical reason at the time that he needed to go. It wasn't for an injury, though.
Did he arrest at all?
He did not.
Was he under the influence of any substances?
We can't comment on that now.
Until he confessed.
Excuse me?
It was mentioned he confessed. How long did it take until he confessed?
How long did that process take? Again, that's some information we're not willing to share right now.
Is there any belief the 4 victims in Bowdoin may have been shot and killed before Tuesday morning?
Again, that's too deep into the timeline that we're willing to go right at this moment.
Why is his booking photo not being released?
We have requested that the jail hold on to the booking photo as part of our investigation, and when we see no purpose to do that anymore, then we'll ask them to release it.
And to be clear, the shootings in the Yarmouth area, that was random, right? They had the cars were found, they didn't have a specific reason. They weren't targeting the Halsey family, right?
No, what he confessed to us was that he thought that the vehicles that he shot at were police officers following him. So there was no evidence of any connection to the Halsey family.
Do you have any information suggesting there's a connection to existing drug trafficking operations in the state? There's been a lot of stuff said about that.
There's no information at this time.
Numerous people have told us there's a connection between the family and a local church, and that may have played some kind of role in family dynamics. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
There's nothing I can tell you at this time.
Sorry to go back
I
to this, but.
We're gonna wrap up real quick, so we just one more question.
Yeah,
and then-
last one.
But you've identified the murder suspect. You know his name, so why not show his picture?
For investigative purposes, we're not doing that at the moment, and we've requested the jail hold on to it. I can't explain any more than that at the moment. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it, and our best goes out to the families and friends of the victims. Thank you very much.